All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Modern Workplace Security Partner Community Call for January 2018. Just to make sure everyone can hear me, if you can tell me if you had coffee or tea this morning or water and type that into the message window, that'll just let me know that you're able to hear me okay. Okay, great. I do see some responses coming in. I'm definitely a coffee person myself. Um, if you do have any issues with audio, I did list the conference ID as well as the bridge, or the bridge information as well as the conference ID, so that you can get audio that way. The deck will be posted to our Yammer community shortly after the call, and there is a link to that in the message window as well. So without further ado, I want to hand things over to Edward to talk about the topic here for January. All right. I think you're still on mute, Edward. Edward, you're still on mute. All right, Edward, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. I'll hand things off to you to go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you so much, Willie. So good afternoon, everyone. Today is the Modern Workplace Security Partner Community Call for January 2018. My name is Edward Walton. I am a cloud solution architect within the OCP TT team, which is the One Commercial Partner Technical Team, Security and Compliance. I am a cloud solution architect with a partner focus on enabling security offerings and training for our partners who have a specific interest around security at M365. Today is part 2 of a 2-part blog series and community call where we talk about how partners can get started creating, sustaining, and growing a security practice using Microsoft-funded assessments. So today we'll finish up the 2-part blog and 2-part call by talking about 5 specific security assessments that are funded by Microsoft and what those particular assessments consist of, how do you gain access to them, and what a high-level view of those assessments look like. Okay. We'll also have some information around partner resources where you can go and find playbooks, be able to find usable and customizable content, as well as links to further your out-of-band education around the offerings that we're going to talk about today. So with that, we'll get started. The agenda would be specifically around the security offerings that are funded by Microsoft, which also includes a GDPR toolkit. These are CAD solutions funded by Microsoft that allow you to deliver security value to your partners. Once we review these offerings, the requirements, and the internals of them, we'll end the call with a Q&A session to answer any questions you may have, as well as take any action items out of band to get you information for follow-up. So let's talk about some of the resources that you can use to be able to get yourself started around the Microsoft security framework and being able to get access to some of these tools. First of all is being in the know. So being in the know is understanding that we do have partner calls and partner trainings, and these are some of the hot sheets and links where you can get access. Well, we have the Modern Workplace Technical Yammer page, and you see the link there. as well as the Modern Workplace Community Call registration, where you can go in and register for a series of calls, not only for the security and compliance, but other workloads within the Modern Workplace group. We also have the partner community blog, where a lot of these calls have a corresponding blog entry or blog write-up to talk about the content of the call that generally occurs after the blog has been posted. This slide deck will be presented at the end of this presentation for anyone to go back and use as reference. So let's talk about what an engagement structure and what resources Microsoft is making available for partners that have a specific interest in doing security-related work and providing security-related value to their customers and clients. And so Microsoft has put together a canned series of assessments to be used by their partners that allow you to come in, work with your customers, build a brief dossier and an agenda that takes you into a 2-day engagement with your partner to be able to provide a resulting security, posture, dossier, and remedial or actionable insights. So this blog talks about how to take advantage of the assessments that are highlighted here, which is the Office 365 Security Assessment using SecureScore, Shadow IT Assessment, the Rapid Cyber Attack Assessment, Windows 10 Enterprise Security Workshop, as well as the GDPR Assessment. Now, each one of these have a specific framework, table of contents, and a flow that you can follow, customize to be able to deliver this to your customer. But prior to getting to the actual assessment, you do spend the first engagement with the client inside of a customer briefing. And inside the customer briefing, as you see in item 1, the M365 Enterprise E5 and Microsoft Security Vision is a 2-hour to 4-hour touch base with your client to get an idea of where they are or where they believe they are as far as their security efforts, posture, and landscape. And from there, it allows you to better understand which of the assessments will bring the best value to your customer to help address some pain points or questions that they have. And if you look at the bottom where the partner security and compliance scenarios are, you get a high-level breakdown of what each assessment workloads are and what tools are being used to be able to deliver those assessments. So if you're looking at enterprise identity protection, you're looking at being able to deliver the Shadow IT assessment or the 365 security assessment, or both. There is no rule to say that you can deliver one or more of these assessments to the same customer if the need is there. And so this allows you to be able to have a series of touch points, trusted engagements, and build a working relationship to help address the security concerns or requests of your customers. In addition to the cybersecurity assessment, you also see that Microsoft has also created partner-ready guides around modern workplace funding investments. And so these are additional funded engagement of funded deliverables that Microsoft will give to partners to allow them to deliver these solutions to their partners. And they have differing funding limits, some activities, as well as requirements to be able to qualify to be able to deliver these to your customers. And that ranges from an O365 proof of concept all the way down to a M365 power devices, and that generally corresponds into a security touch point, where Windows 10 Enterprise will probably include Windows 10 Defender as well as Windows 10 Advanced Threat Protection. And in the middle, you also see that you still have enterprise mobility and security everywhere assessments. So these assessments are currently being updated on an ongoing fashion. Some of the partner requirements change over time. Some of the funding levels change. But for the most part, they're pretty consistent about what is expected of the partner, what are the qualifications, what are the funding, and what you can do to qualify for these. So once again, this particular slide deck and the hot links inside of it will be presented to everyone at the end of this call. And so we put together a high-level agenda, and it could be customized based on which assessments and which security workloads a partner wants to look at. And so right now we sort of worked backwards. You can see that this is a security and compliance day 2 sample agenda of items that you would cover based on looking at the assessments. So this is generally a 300 to 400 level proposed agenda to your partners, to your customers, that says, hey, we're going to start looking at 300 to 400 level topics, discussion, workloads, demonstrations, and deployment scenarios for your customers. And so it gives you a very high level to conduct your day, from a welcome to security concepts overview all the way into security and compliance. It also puts something as mundane as when do you break for lunch, and things that a customer may want to do is in doing a remote and or on-premise interaction with them. So I'll sort of work backwards by showing that day 2, if you go into a 2-day scenario, this is what a 300 to 400 day looks like, all right? And if you go back into day 1, generally day 1 is an overview, all right, of what we're going to talk about as far as a introductional level for those who don't have any real exposure or deployable experience with the particular workloads. And you use day 1 to sort of define what day 2 will look like. So will day 1 flow over into day 2, or will day 1 be used and to set the tone for how much needs to be re-reviewed or looked at on day 2? Okay. And this can be customized to what your briefing with the partner looks like, as well as what items inside the assessment they actually want to touch. And so there also is one other funded assessment that Microsoft has, which is their ECIF program, which is an accelerate to do M365 powered devices. This is in conjunction with having your partners look at modernizing their desktop operating systems, or even just their OSs, to include Windows 10 and the advanced threat protection that comes inside Windows 10 and Windows 10 Defender. This is a separate 5-day workshop, and it is 300 to 400 level content. And so the specifics of this particular program was discussed and highlighted in part 1 of this partner call, as well as part 1 of the blog. The link inside this slide deck is high and it is current. So for more information, you can definitely click on this, and it will give you more insight and more information on how to take advantage of the modern IT security POC. I think that the name has recently changed from M365 Power Devices to a newer name, but clicking on the link still takes you to the same place, and you'll just get the more modernized name of what they're calling this 5-day workshop. And the 5-day workshop is a 5-day. It is structured to be deliver certain things on each day to come up with a in-game document or follow-up, right? So, and this is strictly 300 to 400 level for those who have experience prior, and maybe some of the other workloads in EMS and or Windows to deliver this workshop. So after seeing all this, we got a high-level overview of what things are available from Microsoft, so that you can go out and take advantage of these funded assessments to help grow, create, or help your security practice reach a certain maturation level, okay? So how do we go about looking at this, and what does it really look like? So we're seeing all these links, we're seeing all these documents, we're seeing all these funding requirements and everything. So what does the rubber to the road actually look like? So let's take a look at the security and GDPR partner tools that you can take advantage of that are built into the assessment offerings that you're going to see out there. All right? Any questions so far? All right. Any questions, please type them up, and the assistant moderator will definitely take those questions. So what is it?
There aren't any questions just now, and there are a few messages coming in about the speaker view kind of blocking the content of the slide. So trying to change that. Unfortunately, the content view is not restricting the speaker squares that are showing up in the right bottom corner. But the slides will be posted after the call, and of course those won't have the speaker view present. But again, as Edward mentioned, if there are questions that do pop up, please type them in the message window, and I'll ask them during pauses in the presentation. All right. Thanks, Edward.
Hey, no problem. Is there anything that you can do to adjust that on the fly, Willie? We're sort of stuck there now.
Yeah, it's kind of stuck. I've been trying to change it, but for some reason that change is not taking effect.
Okay, I apologize everybody for that. The nuances of Skype/Teams. All right, well, definitely we will get you the slide decks. Okay, so let's continue. What is a GTM or go-to-market accelerator? So a go-to-market accelerator is nothing more than a collection of tools, assessments, resources, and information that you can use in conjunction with some of the pre-canned stuff or pre-canned initiatives that Microsoft has so that you can quickly accelerate intellectual property, canned solutions, and security offerings to your partners. So how do we go about taking advantage of these go-to-market? So one of the quickest, one of the most frequent questions is, what is GDPR? All right, so GDPR is the next regulatory compliance or control that's set to take effect this year in May, I believe, inside the EU. It is far-reaching. It's going to affect the way that organizations handle data and requests for data manipulation and protection. GDPR is a huge initiative that's coming down that may affect customers not only who reside in the EU, but also do business in the EU. So it is not just those companies that have their headquarters there, but if you do business in the United States or vice versa, GDPR is something that you probably want to take advantage of, right? How does it impact me? Well, it impacts you from a couple of standpoints. As a partner, you're going to have or possibly have customers to say the same thing. What does GDPR do for me? How does it change my line of business? What are the impact of overhead as far as headcount, skills I need to incorporate or develop, and what are the sanctions and penalties for not understanding GDPR or not adhering to them? So there's quick value and very in-demand value for partners that can come in who can provide solid GDPR advisory services and or assessment services for an organization to help them level set to understand where they are going and what they can do to either become GDPR compliant or GDPR knowledgeable or GDPR intelligent. You as a partner have huge amounts of opportunity to come in and consult and advise your customers as trusted advisors around the GDPR controls that are coming down the pipe. What does Microsoft do to help? So Microsoft is putting a series of tool sets, information, links, resources, educational opportunities for partners to help develop their GDPR knowledge. And Microsoft in itself is a GDPR compliant entity, saying that if you are working with Microsoft in a digital asset, a digital lifecycle, Microsoft will work with you to ensure that you are GDPR compliant in your line of business. So Microsoft is helping with everything from being able to provide consulting services for partners who want to recycle that and use it, as well as helping customers who are directly affected by GDPR reach GDPR compliance. And so what does that mean? That means that when you're looking at the toolkits and you're trying to provide services to your partner, you want to look at it, looking at a delivery guide. Do I have a methodology to deliver certain resources and certain skills and certain services to your partner? You look at a delivery guidance saying that this may not be the all, but this is a way and gives you a framework to lockstep and being able to deliver solutions and offerings to your partners. It then translates into building an on-site engagement overview. So prior to engaging and working with the stakeholders within the organization, understand what that engagement overview looks like. So you are directly focused on stuff that maximizes your touch point and your time with the partner / customer. And then customer presentation templates. So that you don't have to create a lot of this content net new. Microsoft provides a lot of the presentation templates that you can go in and brand, update, and modify and change to meet the specific engagement that you currently you may be involved with. And then the tools. There are different tools that range from working inside M365, Azure, Enterprise Mobility Security, and other things. So being able to leverage specific technical tools to help deliver the other four or help flesh out the other four things that ultimately create a circle of once the tools are in place, you start over, you go to the next phase inside the technical guide and engagement delivery, and you create a sustained, a subsequent on-site engagement overview where you go into a phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4. So you have a complete life cycle and support system there. So smart and comprehensive and created with partners in mind. So this is built out not to be a very rigid framework. It is created to provide factual and modifiable information that you can go in and based on your personal interaction or what you're trying to accomplish as a security practice or as a consulting practice, you don't feel locked into something that's very rigid. Being able to get an overview and be able to modify that and customize that for yourself as well as your partners is one of the benefits, right? That's why it was created. It can be an in-depth guidance. So the deeper you get and more experience you get into GDPR, you'll find that Microsoft has the material that can continue to go from 100 to 200 to 300 and then customizable 400 and 500 level type of content. And so you won't find yourself outstripping the tools presented to you to be able to do your job or be able to provide services to your partner. So you can get it, as well as overview, in-depth guidance on how to conduct these go-to-market accelerators. And the tools vary in format, right? So you don't necessarily get an installable, you don't necessarily get a form, you don't get flows, you may get a combination of PowerPoint, Word, Excel, and as well as some hyperlinks or some active online forms to be able to integrate those tools into your solution or use them standalone. And so a typical scenario vision using a toolkit. So you want to start off by having internal readiness tools from a kit, downloading it, going to the partner site, looking at the playbooks, looking at the content, downloading it, reviewing it in advance, familiarizing yourself, and lining up your internal skill set or lining up your training to make sure that you have the baseline proficiency to be able to deliver these assessments. And that correlates into an engagement delivery guide, right? And then the next phase would be an assessment questionnaire where you go through, you meet with the customer, you go over what their security concerns, or you may just ask the questions. They may not have concerns. They may just want informational, and they may want to tell you what their current security posture looks like. You gather this information, right, and then you put into applicable holding points within our material or the assessments to allow you to give feedback later. And then that gives you the ability to have actionable insights and actionable intelligence and create follow-ups and what actions taken by virtue of the first two steps. Do you want to become more compliant, more secure, or more 365, intelligent? Or do you need to pull in different resources because you've uncovered something else? Because more compliant doesn't necessarily mean more secure, and more secure doesn't mean more compliant, right? These are just nothing more than sticky conversation touch points that you can then use to start building trust, start building an ongoing relationship with your partner. Your customer. So how do you do that? So we basically talked about the GDPR framework, which was very, very high level. But there are other assessments that are available to you that I showed at the beginning of the slide deck. One of them is the Office 365 Security Assessment Partner Toolkit. And what this is the ability for you to come in, look at a customer's 365 deployment and understand and look at whether they have deployed some of the security and compliance workloads that are inherent with 365. A lot of customers either don't know, don't realize, or just don't turn on the security controls, workloads, and features in 365. That may be a combination that they don't know about it. They may think it's too hard to deploy. And so this presents an opportunity for partners to come in and help light up some of these workloads for their customers. And so you do that by using 365 Secure Score, which is one of the assessments that you can take advantage of. So what this does is it goes in and takes a look at what security workloads are either turned on, not turned on, configured, partially configured, at risk, and gives you a lot of pivot data for you to come back and create a sample report for your customers that says, you're currently sitting here, but if you were to do these series of incremental changes or enablements or configurations, you can increase your security score within 365, thereby enhancing your security posture. And so when you do that, you have the ability to, I went back a slide. And that's how you take advantage of the security assessment within 365. It is using a secure score. And so it is readily available inside 365 on the left-hand pane for those who are familiar how to navigate it. And once you turn that on, it gives you a series of controls that you can follow using the content in the assessment toolkit, which is the 365 secure score. To the next one. Next in the offered assessments by Microsoft is the Rapid Cyber Attack Assessment. What this is looking at a holistic overview of the security environment in a day-to-day operational manner that your customers may have. It allows you to go in and ask the questions all the way from the endpoint to the identity to deploy workloads to data storage retention, and do a 30, 90, and 3-month beyond type of touch points or engagement with your customers. This is asking questions around, are you using the most modern OS? Are you implementing, complex strong passwords? Are you using passwords? Do you protect privileged accounts? Some of the very easy low-hanging fruit within the first 90 days to help build out a level set or a landscape that allow you to then look at how do we move forward to address some of these issues or validate that you don't have any known issues. And so once you get out of the first 30, 60, you look at the next 90 days, or do you look at creating workloads or creating some operational standards around everything from backup to password or identity expirations, as well as ongoing auditing and things along that line. This is also where you probably identify if your customer has any regulatory compliance that they need to adhere to. HIPAA High-Tech, PCI, GDPR, which we talked about. So that gives you an idea of how these assessments build upon each other. If you're able to do the cyber assessment, it then may lead into a GDPR assessment, okay, and vice versa. So they're not necessarily, they have to be deployed or engaged in a certain order. They have the ability to build upon each other, right? And then going 3 months and beyond, you're probably looking at a very pointed engagement where they've asked you to come in and remediate something that they believe is critical. They may be looking at how they deploy updates, looking at reducing and deprecating some of the stuff that they may consider security risk, but nobody really knew how to reduce this or eliminate this particular workload, which may be moving some of their workloads to Azure, right, and thereby eliminate some security risk because they've gone to a more secure environment. So the Rapid Cybersecurity Assessment is to take a very big look at how you do business and how you incorporate security in your day-to-day operations. And then you can actually use this to build off on some of the other assessments that we're going to talk about. Shadow IT. Shadow IT is the buzzword of, do you know what you know or not know what your end users, your constituents, or your customers are doing in their environment? And shadow IT is generally when you have very enabled organizations and everybody in every department has either their own dedicated IT or very skilled individuals who oftentimes inadvertently do things that expose your environment to, data loss, instances, security violations, because they're deploying workloads, they're deploying technologies with a plethora of commercial and consumer type of technologies with huge amounts of overlap, right? Such as data storage and communication mediums. This allows you to come in and assist your customer with looking at it and saying, okay, do you know what is going on inside your infrastructure as far as application deployment, mobile application deployment, workload deployment, technologies that are being implemented outside the authority or outside the deployment of your dedicated IT staff, and be able to come back and create something that says this may not be a security risk, but you need to understand what is actually happening and help them build controls and help them build information and correspondence to their customers and to their end users. So Shadow IT takes advantage of Microsoft's Cloud App Security, which is Microsoft's CASB, which is their application security broker, right? We have a catalog of known applications, built-in policies, collection methodologies, so that you can capture information about your customer's environment and then be able to present technical, executive, and informative reports to your customer that resonate from things as simple as, do you know these amount of individuals are using Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox to store sensitive information? And then that will allow you to perhaps leverage other controls to control this information that's being leaked, shared. Or they may be running software that may be sanctioned, but not necessarily for the individual or the entity that's using it, so that you can put some controls in and have visibility and track these things. So shadow IT assessment is to look at these things that are operating out of band and, for lack of a better word, in the shadows. And once again, this builds upon or can take advantage of any of the other assessments. If you think you have a possible GDPR violation, the shadow IT assessment may figure out what that trigger was. Or if you have a cybersecurity assessment, it may lead to understanding I need to do a complete overhaul or overlook of what is actually running my infrastructure. So all these things feed into each other. GDPR Detailed Assessment Toolkit. This is one that has the greatest ability to provide probably the deepest impact for your customers. It's based on a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet with 150 still questions, yes or no questions, and these questions are based off the controls that are part of the regulation that's going to come into effect this year. So you're able to come in, take these pre-canned questions and or modify these questions based on your familiarity with the actual GDPR controls and regulations, and ask your customers, are you aware that this is a control, and based on your business model, your business vertical, your business industry, this affects you, or it may affect their subset of customers, right? Or the vendor that they use. And so you are able to give them actionable intelligence to be able to go back and ask the hard questions, or come back and maybe disqualify what someone may have seen as a security violation. Say, no, that's a known exception, a known exclusion. Using the GDPR Detailed Assessment Toolkit is a baseline to get in front of the regulations that's about to occur and take effect in May, and so that you can ask these questions, go back after you put in some remediation and see where your posture is at that moment. So taking advantage of this assessment toolkit allows you to not only look at your own environment, increase your skills, understand the requirements around the assessment by virtue of the questions that you're asking, and look at the remediation and remedial recommended actions that can help drive, what your offer may be to your partner, to your customers, right? Saying that we are specialized in working with data retention. We specialize in data encryption. We specialize in data transition and things along that line. But first of all, you have to get a baseline of where you are and if the regulation applies to you. And that's what this detailed assessment toolkit does, right? And Microsoft has a very robust set of tools and resources and material, and we will definitely give you the links to be able to get access to that. And you also have the GDPR Discovery Toolkit. This is in conjunction with the Excel spreadsheet that asks a series of questions. This toolkit is something that you can download from the partner site, and what it does is it gives you the ability to run a pre-canned set of workloads and discovery processes to pull in information about your clients that you currently engage with. You can use that to then create recommendations, next steps, other assessments based on what you find, and so that the GDPR toolkit is not just one set of information in a repository. It's being able to use all of these tools in conjunction with each other to be able to get you a holistic and provide value to your customer, right? And I know that this is a lot of information, but it's put out very, very well inside the Microsoft partner site that you can download these things and be able to parse them and review them at your leisure and then come up to speed on them. Any questions so far? All right.
Hey, yeah, we're still no questions at this point.
Okay. So where do you find these? So we've talked about all these nice, Microsoft funded assessments, pre-canned, customizable, and configurable things. You find them at the web link here, partners.office.com/security and compliance. And inside of that, you will find links that allow you to download the content of each one of these assessments. Each one of these assessments corresponds to a series of information that you can download that includes everything from deployment methodology, sample statement of works, sample deployment documents, as well as resulting documentation that you can use to put together summaries. So each one of these links from the 365 assessment, Shadow IT, GDPR, they are all there. And then you can also learn more from the assessment one-pager. The one-pager gives you a boil down of this entire blog call that we're having right now. So it's an easily consumable piece of information that talks about, okay, where do I even start? How do I get it? What's the value add? What's the requirements to be able to get access to this and then to get started? And also, what skill set do I need to be able to do these things? So the one pager, why it's the last thing on there, may be one of the most valuable links inside of this slide deck. But to get access to all of the assessment document and material, that is the link there. Resources. One thing that we didn't talk about, which is also inside of there, is Microsoft has also made a couple other security tools available. They're GA soon and be available to partners to be able to go out and deploy and or test it on the environment before adding services. One of them is the Compliance Manager Preview. It is built into 365. You'll find that useful in conjunction with the O365 assessment / secure score. You'll be able to look at blogs. The blogs around Compliance Manager is there. Get to know the Microsoft Trust Portal and other things in relationship to the Compliance Manager, GDPR compliance, as well as Secure Score. So here are the links for those. Support page for that is also there. So not only do you get to see what it is, if you have questions or you're in some type of demo or proof of concept environment, it's there. And everyone loves a good video. So being able to go to the Office YouTube, the Compliance Manager YouTube channel and help with that, those are there also. So Compliance Manager is one of the previews that now you can take advantage of in conjunction with the 365 Secure Score or O365 Security Assessment. And there we are. Any questions?
Hey, Edward, thanks for that information. There aren't any questions that have come in just yet, but for those on the line, we'll stay on for a couple more minutes, a few more minutes. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. But in the meantime, I want to thank you all for joining the call this month. We'll get started again next week with a Modern Workplace call for Windows and devices, and then we'll be following that up with our February calls for productivity, security, and then also Windows and devices. All right, looks like a message just came in. The question, I guess, with the links and some of the information, how often is it updated, the content that is?
All the content, including the assessments, are updated on an ongoing fashion. So there is not a set schedule for each one. They are updated as the technology evolves, as the content becomes either more relevant, has changes to it, or no longer is relevant. And so everything from the assessments to the links are updated on a very constant, but really a non-formatted schedule. So it is best to check the partner site as your first stop, and from there browse all the other links to be able to see what has changed. Specifically with the assessments, they are easily identifiable by the version number of the content. So when you get a zip folder or a series of downloads, I believe the current assessment version is 1.1. It was 1.0 a couple of months ago. And so I suspect that every time that there is an update to either one, you'll see an increment in the version number. So 1.1 is the current version for all the assessments.
Okay, let me see. There's more that came in. Okay, I think that answered the second question that came in as also.
One thing to be aware of is that they're all fast moving and they all have overlap with some of the complementary or other technologies that a lot of partners and their customers use. So you'll see references to how to properly stand up your Azure environment. Are you using some of the inherent security tools inside of Azure, such as Azure Security Center, or maybe some logging correspondence inside OMS, and looking at where the feature sets differ between E5 and E3 and enterprise and business if you're working with Microsoft 365. So all of the content there is meant to be consumed together, all right? But you don't have to actually utilize all of it together. So it's a good practice that if you find an update in one particular assessment, that you should go check the others, right? Because they do sort of complement each other as well as build upon each other. One other thing is, we didn't really talk a whole lot about the Windows 10 security assessment. You're seeing that evolve now, so that Windows 10 is becoming less of a migration conversation and management conversation to a security conversation, so that when you are doing upgrades, you're going to hear the conversation about how do I take advantage of the built-in components in Windows 10 as Credential Guard, App Guard, or being able to look at Windows 10 Advanced Threat Protection, and how does that fit into Azure Advanced Threat Protection, or for the cloud, which is Advanced Threat Analytics in the cloud, right? So you start seeing that these workloads and these assessments help build conversation around possible security workloads that your customers have already deployed, right? Intune. You've done an assessment, and you may find that their Intune environment, while robust, may be incorrectly configured to meet a particular security compliance regulation, right, or requirement. So all the assessments give you very good insight on what other aspects of a customer's environment is doing, and that's how you build that trusted advisorship, or that trusted advisor role within your customer. And like I said, they're fully customizable, very well wrote out, and then you can go in and use as much or as little as you can. However, there are minimum requirements that certain things have to be done to be able to meet the funding requirements of it. So thoroughly read the requirements at the very top of each of the assessments, and then build out your skill set and your deployment methodology after you understand what the end game is, or what the end requirements are. Any other questions?
All right. All right, Edward, I think that's all.
I think that's it. Well, everyone, thank you for taking time out. The content of this presentation will be made available inside the Yammer group for everyone, and we look forward to seeing everyone on the next call.
All right. Thanks, Edward. Thanks, everyone.